All right, welcome everybody. My name is Marmarta. I'm going to be talking about what is happening with Qubes graphical tools and graphical stack. Yeah. First, I wanted to answer a question that has been asked to me a couple of times. That is, why are you changing things? Things were, and it's terrible to have them changed. I like how they were. So, yes, I understand that change is something nobody likes, especially in terms of graphical tools. Every time something changes, people are like, no, it was better before. Turn it back. This is not a good way to go, because QubesOS graphical tools were not exactly developed with a plan. It was more of like, maybe we can just put more drop-downs to a place and we'll fit everything in. And the problem is that what maybe was mostly working, like this is the very old 4.1 settings window, and it started at just like 4 or 5 options, but then it had more, stops being readable. Most features had graphical tools added as an afterthought, and the effect was very opaque for new users. I understand that it was very, well, you know, once you're used to something, you can manage it no matter how complex it is. But for new people, it was not that easy to use. And there are actually some reasons to have good UX that are security-based. It's not just me wanting to make things pretty, although I would like to make things pretty. And the main reason is that people are very lazy. We are very lazy. The easier good practices are, the more they will be actually used. Because unfortunately, you know, I may know that it's a good idea to open this and this link in this VM, but if I don't have a simple one-click method to do it, sometimes I will be like, oh, never mind, what can possibly go wrong? I'll just open it in the VM I am now. Humans are lazy. So I want to make UX for Qubes that is actually easy to use so that we do the good things more easily. Also, a lot of threats involve tricking the user. And if the interface we have is a random collection of widgets designed by different people that look completely different, it's very easy to be tricked. Because if you are seeing something that's very unfamiliar, well, that might just be another new brilliant widget, right? Definitely Qubes team made it because it looks random and different, so probably it's okay. Also, Qubes is pretty complicated. Well, if you know it very well, maybe not that complicated, but there are many layers and options. I want to make a lot of the options more visible, easier to use, because you cannot use all the fun things if you just don't know they exist. And we cannot just put everything in the documentation because not very many people read documentation. Some do, and I'm very grateful for everybody who does. But a lot of people don't. And when they do, we often read documentation in a very target-oriented manner. I want to do this one thing. I found a line that does this one thing. I'm not going to read anything else around it. Especially not things like warning, caution, option, something. This is boring. Let's not read it. So those are all the reasons why I'm trying to make a UX for Qubes that is good, consistent, and easy to use. So yeah, that's my general goals, and also to remove as many ways to shoot yourself in the foot as possible. Because Qubes is great, but it's also sometimes quite easy to change some setting and end up with problems that may or may not have happened to me more than once. So I want the GUI to offer useful options. Not every single option, but sensible options, useful ones. So now I'm going to talk a bit about some changes that we've made and some changes that are coming. A big change is a new widget for handling devices. It's a result of research, user research, talking with people, some debates, including last summit's design session. There are a lot of backend changes. I think Piotrek is going to be talking about the backend changes. Well, and Marek mentioned them definitely, so I'm not going to go into details here. Now the changes are mostly, like on the front-end side, the changes are mostly cosmetic, but more will come in the future. So what we did, the old widget was, it was nice because it packed a lot of information in one spot. The problem is, it packed a lot of information in one spot, and the information was quite contextless. When I talk to users, especially new users, a lot of people were like, cool, I guess that this means I'm going to attach this device to a VM. What will happen if I click on another VM? Will it detach from the old one or not? What is going to happen? So I decided to move into the direction where the options are actually described. So you can see what the option is going to do. I decided to surface option detach and attach to new disposable cube, because this is something that a lot of people want to use. For example, when you plug in this USB stick you found in a parking lot. I added more descriptions. This is not a big change, but also the new devices widget will allow us to also add a lot of more fun stuff from the backend work, because now we have a space to add more options, and there is not just a flat list of VMs, and well, let's hope you guess what this does. Yeah, so, and now we have a dark mode that tries to actually be mostly visible, which is another improvement.
Yes.
It should be working. If you have any problems with the dark mode, please report them as issues. So yes, at this point we have now easily attaching to new disposable cubes. This is coming, not yet implemented. So display one storage device if you plug in a USB stick that has just one partition, and not like it happens now. Display everything and hope the user guesses which device you should actually connect. And a couple of options that are coming soon are things like easily attach to cubes to which you previously attached this particular device. An option to attach camera and microphone together, another thing that a lot of people asked for, and judging from our team calls would be quite useful when people connect and it's like, oh, sorry, forgot my microphone. So those things hopefully will come soon. And another thing that is going to come is improved attachment, that is, have actually meaningful options for auto attachment of devices. For example, ask to attach, whenever you plug in this particular device, ask to attach it to a certain cube, or automatically attach it to a cube, or require the device for a cube to start. The next change is the template manager, and Marek mentioned it a bit. So the problem with the template manager is what happens when you have somebody who is extremely brilliant, because the person who did the contribution was clearly a very good programmer, and is not very good at UX for the obvious reasons of not actually doing or being trained in that, so obviously they weren't very good at it. And the problem was that I've tried to test it on a couple of test subjects, and nobody I asked who didn't know this window before was able to guess where they should click to actually install an available template. Because the workflow was click on the available label and switch it to install. So this is an unusual approach. I understand why the contributor did that. That made sense for him. It was easy to make that in the available tools.
More drop-downs?
Yeah, exactly. When in doubt, just add more drop-downs. It will fix everything. So I decided to fix it a bit. It's not a complete rewrite, because the tool itself is great, but I want to, one, have it more similar to other Qubes applications for the consistency I mentioned before, and also to solve the problem of what? because a lot of users I talked about had this reaction when they first encountered the template manager. And the new template manager is not very different. Like, it still has all the templates listed. But this time I tried to add a bit more context, add a bit more explanations. I know a lot of people, especially people in this room, are not going to read those explanations. This is a lot of words. But when somebody opens it for the first time and does not know what's happening, some of those people will read it. Not all. A lot of people will just click on. That happens. It's okay. But there is an option to learn what the tool does. I also tried to provide a bit more, well, explained details about the template. Because, for example, in the old template manager, oh no, sorry. I was trying to lie. I'm not lying. In the old template manager, the options were the various information about template was described just by one word. Column name. Now, there are a bit more words. And the options are a bit more, the things you can do with a template are just a bit more explained. Install templates. You know what install does. I also added some, this is a development version, so not everywhere you can see it, but some templates here now have a marker that they are no longer supported. So, I mean, you still can install them. Why wouldn't you? We are, after all, Linux-based, so you can always, you need to have some way to shoot yourself in the foot if you really want it. But now at least users will know, okay, maybe installing this template is not the best idea. And also I tried to give a bit more warnings because it was quite easy to do another foot gun with the old template manager, because template could have an option to upgrade, and it sounds like something you maybe should be doing. No, because upgrade, well, upgraded the template to a new version and erased everything you do. It was not update packages within the template. It was erase it and install it anew. So at least now, I'm going to warn the user that maybe you shouldn't. Of course, some people will still ignore the warning. There is a limit to what we can do. And I have also been the person who ignored the clear warning, so this is very human. But hopefully it's going to be a bit better. There is a lot of other minor improvements to Qubes menu, showing Qube settings in search, improving keyboard navigation. Something that is coming soon is an opt-in, show recently used applications, because this is something a lot of people wanted to have. And another big thing that I'm working on is making contributions to our GUI stack easier, because the thing is, Qubes is hard, and developing stuff for Qubes is hard, and testing stuff is hard. Yes, I do have my magical one-liner that allows me to move my package to DOM0 and test it there. This is not an easy thing to do. And people who are good at UX and good at developing GUIs are not very often in the same group as those who are good at Qubes. There is, I mean, I hope I am in the middle, but there are not very many people there. And I want to make it more realistic for people to contribute. So one thing that I've made is a simple set of mock Qubes objects that allows testing Qubes GUI applications within a cube or without a cube. You can just test it on whatever Linux you are using. You don't have to wrangle with stuff. This is, for example, Qube Manager running with this mock Qubes object. Also, it makes it easier to write tests. So I hope this will help more people be able to at least, start developing Qubes GUI tools. And another thing that is going to come is a style guide. And this is something that I'm working on, or like this is worked on by the wonderful people from Ura Design, who are sitting right there, who are going to work on making a simple guide that will help us avoid the problems of old Qubes template manager. That is a simple document that people contributing will also be able to use to be like, oh, I need a button. How should that button look? No longer they will have to guess or like add more drop downs as was the normal practice. And I hope this will allow us to make a consistent, useful, friendly GUI stack. All right, thank you. Any questions?
Maybe not exactly a question, but just maybe a small remark to guys who want the old GUI and those who like new GUI. Windows, that's such a wonderful thing. Like when they switch to Windows 11, let's say, they redesigned everything, but then you had on the margin of the window a small link to the old view. So you could possibly still reuse the old layouts and have your old known locations for the settings you wanted. But of course, this creates an overhead of managing two different sources for those.
We don't have enough UX people for that.
Yeah, that is just a remark.
Yes,
such things exist in the world.
They do, but also they mostly happen when people are very fed up and force the company releasing a certain tool to allow them to go back to their old UX.
Also not saying it is a right approach.
Yes, so this is not going to happen. For the obvious, like, manpower reasons. Like, even if I wanted to do that, we don't have manpower to maintain.
Yes, totally understandable. Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to say thanks for redesigning the Qubes manager, Jesus Christ. I know personally a few people who have reinstalled thinking that it was just going to update their packages.
Yes,
I know a guy.
I am that person too.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask, what are some plans to sort of remove, or if you have any, dependency on mouse and improve keyboard movement?
So one part is, of course, always trying to fix the existing keyboard navigation for things like menu, manager, and so on. Whenever you have any opinions on that, please make an issue, because keyboard navigation is hard to get right. And another thing that I hope to be moving in the direction of, it's not going to happen in 4.3, but I hope to get rid of the bajillion tiny widgets that we have, which are very mouse dependent, and replace them with something that would be a one window that could be launched with a keyboard and also navigated with a keyboard. So this is my hope to go in that direction.
Yeah. Is it going to have Vim movement? Nah, I'm kidding.
Contributions welcome.
Yeah, basically not really a question, but just feedback. Really thanks for the redesign. I'm working at NitroKey, and we get a lot of feedback basically on how Qubes is working. And I see much improvement there with 4.2. And yeah, also I remember like 2 years ago I did a talk where I talked about user stories, and actually seeing something of this developing there really was...
It was a great talk, and I took a lot of notes.
So yeah, really thanks for that. And actually I would say it improved a lot of things.
I'm very glad to hear that. Thank you.
Hi, any plans to make more things dark? Such
Yes.
as the terminals and the templates or something?
Yes, I hope to make things work with dark mode on everything. That is one of the things. That is also something that I'm trying to always do with every redesign, to actually make sure that dark mode does work and not maybe works.
Thanks so much. That was a great talk. I really liked your comment about consolidating actions so they have the same consistent approach. Do you have any other examples of that in other aspects of the GUI?
Like a very simple thing. I do want to make it so that, for example, the OK button is every time on the same spot, because right now it's basically random. If it ends up on the right, on the left, in the center, it happens somewhere, which really messes with muscle memory of users. I'd just like to note that this is probably the nicest situation in my life, where a lot of people had not really a question, but a comment, and all of those were very nice. Thank you.